Hey guys, Todd here again with HobbyLink Japan, and it is time for another monstrous review. So I am here today not with a Gunpla kit, but with the latest release in Kotobukiya's Highend Master Model lineup from the Zoid series. This is the Iron Kong Yeti. Are we there, Yeti? So this guy is quite big. You can see he barely fits there on that turntable, and that's what we use for pretty much all the reviews that I do here with all the Gunpla kits, so you guys can get a view of all the different angles on these kits as he slowly rotates around. So this is it's a really cool kit. When I saw this thing come into stock, this thing had one of those it came in a really large box, not as large of a box as the Godulus. So the Godulus is still going to be a lot bigger than this kit will be, and that's still another Zoid kit I have, but I just need to get around to finishing one of these days. So yeah, I won't mention the Godulus anymore, but yeah, this guy is quite big, and he is in white because even though he is a Iron Kong, so he is kind of gorilla-ish, but this is the Yeti version, and I actually kind of have a funny, or not really funny, but there was an interesting thought that I had when I was building this Yeti model, and I don't know how many people out there in the world can really say this. So in all of the time that I have been working, since I've started working all those years ago, this is actually the second time that I have gotten to work with a Yeti. So I don't think many people out there can actually say this, but yeah, when I was 18, 1998, I started to work at a little place in Southern California called Disneyland, and my role, or my job, was what they call a attractions host. That is their term for the position. And what an attraction host does is, an attraction host is one of those people that works on the rides, but not just the rides, but we also would do like the guest service for the shows, a lot of the 3D shows and other type of shows. So, and in 1998, it wasn't the first ride that I worked. The first ride that I was trained on at Disneyland was a ride called Autopia, and that's the one with those little kind of cars with gasoline-powered engines, and you get to drive them around on the track. But the second attraction that I was trained on, and that I worked on at Disneyland, was the Matterhorn bobsled. So that is one of the few jet coasters they have, or they call it jet coaster here in Japan, but it's a roller coaster, and that's one of the few roller coasters they have at Disneyland. And the park in California is the only Disney park in the world to have the Matterhorn bobsleds attraction. And inside of the mountain, inside of the Matterhorn, there's actually a few of them. I don't know if I'm supposed to be giving away these Disney secrets, but there's actually 3 of them. There's one at the top of the mountain, and there's 2 more one on each side, because there's 2 different tracks for that mountain. But there are, inside of the Matterhorn, there are these mythical creatures from the Himalayan myth, these Yetis. So there's there's the Yetis inside of this mountain. And here, Dave, actually, if you can, I have a picture of me standing with one of these Yetis here from inside of the Matterhorn. So Dave, go ahead and insert this image of me with the Yeti. So the Matterhorn Yeti, he's been given the nickname of Harold, so he's been called Harold. And if you were to go ride this attraction today, he's going to look a bit different than he looks here in the picture, because you got to remember, this is back in 1998, and so that's actually why the picture's not that great of a quality, because digital cameras really didn't exist much back then. At least they were quite expensive. The quality wasn't that great. So this picture was taken on one of those old disposable cameras. I think that's something you buy at the store for $5, and then once you're done taking all the pictures on it, you would bring it to a developer and you would get your pictures. So yeah, that was me with a Yeti. So here I am 22 years later, and I get to work with another Yeti, and that's kind of exciting. I just wanted to throw that out there, just something that amused me thinking about when I was building this kit. So not many people out there can say they've had a chance to work in their professional career with 2 different Yetis. All right, so anyway, thank you for following me as I went off on that little bit of a tangent here. But yeah, let's actually start taking a look at this kit here. So this is a rather cool kit. He's not the newest kit, actually. Well, I think the Yeti version here. So this Iron Kong, the Yeti version, this is brand new for 2020. The Yeti version, I don't believe the Yeti version has ever been released before, so he is brand new for this year. But we have had the original Iron Kong release in the Highend Model Master, and what this kit is based off of. That was released back in 2009, I do believe, and there have been a number of different versions of this Iron Kong over the years, and I think actually way back in the early days of Gunpla TV, I do believe Ryan also took a look at one of those earlier releases of the Iron Kong. So it's quite cool to see this guy come back and be re-released with this cool, sleek, new white version. Now the Iron Kong Zoid is actually, it's one of the older original Zoids too, and I think the original Iron Kong made his appearance in the Zoid lineup back in 1983, if I get this history right. So the Iron Kong has actually been around for a while. Now the Yeti version was originally designed in 2002, and it was part of the Yuji Kaida series, so that is quite cool. So now we have a look here at this Highend Model Master version of this kit. So a lot of the stuff on this kit is going to be identical to what we have seen with the earlier releases of the Iron Kong here in the Highend Model Master, but there are some slight differences here and there. We got some other cool features. We got some cool weapons. I think the backpack is updated for this kit here with those thrusters, with the articulating thrusters on the back, as well as he has a missile launcher on the shoulder. I'm not quite sure if that was in the original release. I don't think it was. I never got to build the original versions, but definitely the colors are new for this guy. Most of the runners in this kit did have date stamps on them of like 2009, 2013, so you get a number of different runners in this kit, and there were actually quite a few parts in this kit. So that box that this kit came in was a rather large box, and actually, let me grab the manual here so I can kind of show you the runners. So this thing comes with a lot of runners. So we're going to take a quick look, go through the manual a little bit here, and I want to just take a look at some of these runners so you can kind of get an idea what I'm talking about here. So there were a lot of runners inside of this box, but you'll see here these dark gray parts. You end up with quite a few extra parts after building this kit that were just not used at all in this kit. Especially on this page, you can see there's quite large amounts of parts that are just unused in this kit. So you'll have a number of spare parts if you ever want to keep these around for scratch building stuff in the future. That is something that is quite cool to do. So why don't we go ahead and, since I have this in my hand, let's go ahead and take a look at the manual here, because it's kind of quite cool. Unlike the Bandai stuff where you get the text in English and Japanese, the Kotobukiya kits, they're only going to be in Japanese, so that is kind of sad. But then here we got this cool diagram. You get all the different parts, and it shows off the Zoid core unit. So this is going to be what is actually inside of the chest. So like all the other Zoid kits, you have this kind of cool clear type of plastic marble that gets embedded into the inside of a Zoid kit, and I believe that's kind of what powers the whole thing. Then it shows off his weapons. You've got the Beam Gatling gun. That's actually what I have equipped on the unit itself right now, but it also does come with this like a 6-type missile launcher if you want to equip this instead of the Gatling gun. I really love the look of the Gatling gun, so that's why I have that on here now. And then you also get these really cool kind of line drawings from the artist about just showing off the inside of the unit. Now actually this show, I kind of wonder if I maybe put the wrong, I think you have a choice of which one you want to do. On this drawing here, it shows the 2-seat cockpit here for the head, and there's also an option for a 1-seat cockpit. And I went ahead and I equipped the 1-seat cockpit because I thought that kind of looked a bit cool. Here we go. Look at the chest unit. I really love the detail of these drawings because it's just quite fantastic to look at, even if you can't read that text. They're just really awesome, great looking drawings. And let's go to the back. So this manual has a total of 38 pages, but actually to start building the model itself, that doesn't start until page 10. So actual building the kit itself part goes from page 10, and then it finishes with the last parts being connected on page 30. So actually only 20 pages of this kit are going to be for the actual construction of the kit itself. So here in the back we've got more detailed kind of drawings for the kit, and we got show off some for the weapons there, and for the legs and the feet. And here we got more for those weapons. Really awesome looking stuff, showing that backpack. It looks like it could be separated and turned into like its own flight unit, because it actually, yeah, it does have a cockpit on the back of it. So I guess with these thrusters and the wings, it can just separate on its own and fly away. That is quite cool. It looks quite awesome. And then we have a painting guide for this kit, so it gives you the color callouts, and it gives you the paint numbers for GSI Krios line of paints. But yeah, not really a whole lot, not really going to be too difficult to try and paint this guy, unlike that Metal Gear Rex that I reviewed recently where it's got that camouflage paint to it. Not a whole lot, not too difficult at all. It's going to be a lot of different solid colors, and then we get a better look at some of the parts. All right, so with the manual out of the way, so actually you can probably see it in that manual there. So this kit actually does come with a sheet of water slide decals, or decals, however you want to pronounce it. And you've got some rather cool looking decals here. They look nice. So if you want to go crazy putting markings on your Zoid kit, you can, because you actually get the water slide kit. So other options that this kit also includes is, so he's rotating around to the front here. Now, when you look at if you were to look at where his eyes are, as well as on the missile pod on his shoulder there, you see there is this kind of clearish green plastic. So there are his eyes, and on the top of the head, and here on the shoulder, and some of the tips on the end of those thrusters there, those are also going to be clear green parts up here. And then, yeah, also for that scope up there, and then also for that cockpit window on his backpack as it's rotating around. Now, I went ahead, and when I built this kit, I decided to use those clear green parts just because I really love that extra bit of color depth that it gives this kit to have those green parts on there. But if for some reason maybe you would like to try to paint your own, if you don't want to use those clear green parts for any reason or another, this kit actually does include a full set of those clear parts in just a straight clear color. So maybe you want to go crazy and have clear purple, then you can take a clear purple paint and clear these and paint the clear parts to have whatever color you would like. So Kotobukiya gives you the option of having the different colored parts for the clear parts, so that is quite nice. And then also, speaking about the options, we saw it in the manual there, and I mentioned how I skipped out. I didn't use the two-person cockpit for the head unit. I decided to go with the single-person cockpit. Now, the reason I kind of did that was because you also have this cockpit here on the back. So if you are not going to have a person, because it comes with only 2 of the little minifigures. So if you want to have a person in the back and one in the front, then you have the single option. That's what I wanted to do. But if you were to use this two-person cockpit, then you either have to leave one seat empty and just have one pilot in here, or have 2 pilots on this cockpit and then just leave nobody in the back. So that option is yours. And before I grab this unit, let's actually take a look at his missile launcher here. So you have a option for the weapon on the back as well. This thing is quite large. That is quite awesome to see. I really love working with these kind of large weapons. They just look so cool when they are built. So, and I'm just a big fan of Gatling guns, so, and they look cool. But I mean, this missile launcher is not too bad itself. And actually, another cool thing about the missile launcher is on the underside of this kind of ammunition pack on the back, there's this part that's molded in this gold plastic. And yeah, once it's equipped, though, you can't actually see it at all, but you can always pull it out and you'll be able to see it there. But I have to tell you, after this one time, after doing this review, I can pretty much guarantee you that I will probably never open this up to ever look at this again. So this might literally be the last time this gold missile here ever sees the light of day. I do have to wonder. So let's go ahead and put this back. It is now sealed for eternity. I brought something here that I wanted to use to help kind of show off just exactly how large this unit is. And since I had this guy sitting here for that Metal Gear Rex review that I just did last week, so I brought out my Revive RX HGRX 78-2 kit again. So he's about the perfect size. I think a lot of people out there kind of understand just how big an HGRX 78 is. So placing this guy in front of that Iron Kong, there you have it. This is really good. This gives you a really good idea just how large this thing is. So boy, look at that. Just look at the width compared to these two. Iron Kong, this thing is just monstrous. So the scale for this thing, so yeah, that the Gundam is actually in 1/144 scale. All the HG kits are 1/144 scale, but the Zoids kits, all these Zoids kits are in 1/72 scale. So of course the scale is going to be different than that HG kit, but just in terms of the amount of plastic and the size of the kits themselves, this guy is just, he is a giant. He is a big boy, and I don't know, I just enjoy building this big stuff for some reason or another. I guess it's because I'm American. Whatever. Whatever. But it looks really, really cool, I gotta say. He definitely stands out. But yeah, just look at that size difference for this little tiny HGRX 78 compared to the Iron Kong. Actually, speaking about this size, so yeah, considering just the amount of runners that this thing came with in that box and the size of the box, I think maybe it might be a little bit intimidating for some people. They might think, because it's such a huge box, it's going to take quite a long time to put this guy together. I think I spent around 12 hours. Not terribly too bad to put this guy together. You can knock it out in the whole weekend if you just want to spend maybe 6 hours a day. Yeah, I guess, but that's also me. I build these things, I build these kits so often that I can kind of get through them pretty quickly. If it's maybe your first kit, if you're kind of new to building these kits, it might actually take you quite a bit longer to put this guy together. But in terms of difficulty, it really wasn't that difficult to put this thing together. There was no glue that was required. It just snapped together, and I can't recall really having any difficulties at all, like misunderstandings in the manual or any of that stuff. Just, yeah, it was just kind of a lazy weekend build, just snapping this guy together. But yeah, all right, so let's go ahead and let's grab him off of the turntable here, and we can maybe just open up the cockpit and take a look. I'm gonna grab him by the crotch down here, kind of try and keep him balanced. All right, so now because this guy is kind of quite big, the parts in this, actually this uses polycaps. So this is an older design kit. Well, I think Kotobukiya kits, pretty much they all use polycaps. It's not like the Bandai kits where they're kind of getting rid of the polycaps. So definitely you have a lot of polycaps for this guy, and definitely his parts, because of the size and the weight as well, he's going to be a bit loose. So I kind of think for this type of kit, once you get it into like a good pose and you just want to keep him there, then it's probably best to keep him in there instead of trying to keep moving him around. But at least that's just me. So let's take a look at the head here. So we've got this kind of cool looking mouth, and actually on the inside might be hard to see, but he does have, I don't think it's too dark on the inside probably, but he actually has a tongue on the inside of his mouth. So that's it was kind of interesting when I was building that part, and I realized, hey, that's this guy's tongue. He's actually got a tongue. So the mouth can open and close, and you've got those nicely detailed teeth that just kind of match together well with the counterparts on the top, so he can actually close his mouth and give you that kind of nice grin there, like. All right, so let's go ahead and open up the cockpit here, and then you can see what I was talking about earlier, how I mentioned that I went with the single-person cockpit. And actually, another reason I preferred this single-person cockpit over this gray two-person cockpit here is that, for one thing, this green color matches all the other green on this kit. And then this gray, you've got the gray for the backpack, so it wouldn't stand out too much, but just my personal taste, I felt that green actually just kind of blended together quite a bit better. And actually, I kind of think, I don't know what if you guys would agree with me or not, but I think the details here on the single person cockpit, you got the controls on the side of the guy, it just looks quite a bit more detailed, I felt, than the two-person cockpit. So that was another reason I decided to go with the single person over the two-person cockpit. So that looks quite cool, and you can see a little pilot figure sitting on the inside there. He looks quite awesome. He has quite a cool unit to pilot around, I do have to say. So, all right, so let's go ahead and take a look now at his shoulders. So this side, you just got a standard covered door. So underneath these shoulder pads here, we're going to have his missile launchers. So if you were to open this up, and that's, I gotta say, this kind of spotlight here on the shoulder, that looks really cool. So we can open this up, and then you can see the missiles on the underside there, and they look quite cool. Now, I guess if for some reason or another you decide you would not like to have this cool clear green type of cover with that spotlight, and you would just like match it, if you would like to, if you would prefer to match it with the cover on the other shoulder, there is actually, I don't think you're actually intended to really use this piece, but there is still the standard cover for this shoulder if for some reason or another you would like to equip that instead of this really cool cover. I don't know who would do that, but maybe somebody out there would. So yeah, this other shoulder also opens up to reveal the missiles on the inside, so that is quite cool. And then going on here to the chest, actually these two chest pieces here, they do lift up, and then we can see that head unit actually has quite a bit of movement there, and he's able to lift up his head quite a bit. And then you can move these two doors out of the way, and then you can kind of get a good look at some of the details. This actually, whoops, oh, I caught it with my hand, woohoo! So yeah, that part pops off quite easily. So, and I think you should be able to, I'm not sure if I really want to, I kind of showed it off in the manual anyway, but you can pop out that core unit that has the stone on the inside, I do believe. So that is on the inside. So if you really wanted for some reason or another to pop that out, then you can do that. So that's kind of quite cool. Really nice detail. So the chest, there's quite a lot of parts on the inside of this chest unit here. So I think most of the part that took the longest to put together was probably the body unit for this guy, just because of all those parts that you have on the inside. You can see the rib cage in there, and then all the joints. So you got some hoses going up on the top here. So that was quite cool. Of course, once you get this all built together, put together, that's detail that you really never ever get to see again, ever. But anyway, it looks cool. So let's go ahead and take a look down at the foot. So you can see here the toes. The toes on this guy can independently articulate, not just a single joint there at the back of the toe. So nothing terribly too fancy as far as that goes. And then you should be able to, there we go, the ankles should be able to move around. I'm kind of a bit hesitant to really go too crazy into looking at the articulation of this guy, because I just don't want, it's a Kotobukiya kit, so I do have a tendency of making these kits kind of fall apart when I try to review them on the channel, just how it goes. So we'll just kind of slowly kind of take a look at the different types of movement that he can do though. So, and then let me move the arm out of the way. So you can see here for the leg, it does kind of swing from side to side. And then in the hip also you get this movement that you can do up and down. So that's kind of quite cool. That side to side movement as well as being able to go up and down. So that is pretty decent, I do have to say. All right, so then for his arms here, yeah, I'm a bit, I don't want to break this thing. So we've got the hands here. Let's take a look at the hands actually. So the hands have the independent fingers on them. And so just like the toes, each one is articulated, but for this one you have a joint here for the tip of the finger as well as the middle of the finger, and then at the top of the finger. So just like you, pretty much just same as a regular hand actually. He's got that same range of movement. And then for the thumb as well, he does have a thumb with just same as a human thumb actually, just has one joint there in the middle. So it's kind of cool. Nicely articulated hands. Fingers, I should say. Wrist can go side to side, and I believe, yeah, it should be able to twist like so. So these joints actually, they're pretty decent at being able to kind of lock into position kind of, so that's always nice, especially when you want to do a pose. So pretty decent, I have to say. So here we have a good look at the backpack here. So the backpack has some really cool weapons going on it. So it's got these two missiles here on the top of it. The missiles look rather awesome, I have to say. And then we've got these thruster parts here on the sides, and actually these can articulate out just like we saw there in the manual. So it can they can go flat and turn into a plane. Although I guess if you have this Gatling here on the side or the other weapon, you might have to rotate this out of the way. Two big thrusters, nicely detailed up in there. And we got this nice grill kind of detail going on the back of this unit as well. So the cockpit for this guy, so another reason I wanted to use the single pilot for that gorilla cockpit, or for the Yeti's cockpit, so I can have a pilot here on the back as well. So we have one guy sitting in the back there. So that looks quite cool. This thing looks really, really awesome. All right, so actually for this Gatling gun, this was something else that I wanted to talk about here. All right, so here we have the Gatling gun. I wanted to take just a kind of a quicker, closer look at this Gatling gun. So I love the size of this large Gatling gun. It looks quite awesome. But there is a bit of a drawback I unfortunately found out with this Gatling gun. So I didn't use any glue to hold this thing together at all. Now, as you can see, these barrels here are quite large. They are quite long. Actually, compared to an HGRX78, they are just about the same length, nearly as the whole thing up until the top of his chest at least. So you can see just how long those things are. But the connection on this gun to hold those barrels is quite weak. So this thing, that's all there is. Just that little tiny, gosh, how many? 3 millimeter about, just little lip there. It's like a little T-shaped connector. That's the only thing on the base of this Gatling gun to connect this to, just that little tiny thing. And the first time I completely finished building this unit, I picked it up, and just because I guess the weight of the thing, the Gatling gun just flew off, and then it hit the floor. And then you see each one of these barrels is independent or individual of each other. It's not like one group unit that's kind of molded together, and the tips are all independent as well. This thing here fell onto the floor. It exploded like a grenade, and then all of the parts for it went everywhere. And I was like, oh gosh, because when you get finished finally building this unit, you're like, yay, I'm done, I did it, I finished. Then you pick it up and you have part of it fall off and explode into a million tiny pieces, and then you're just like, ah, dang it. Yeah, so that happened to me. So yeah, be careful. I thought about doing it, but I wanted to explain to you guys why, what might happen. So I didn't do it yet, but probably later I'm just going to go ahead and take some like Tamiya extra thin type of glue, and I probably am going to just glue this the barrels all in and glue this thing down here so it will not fall apart on me again. Now the back of the unit also has a pretty weak connector, as you saw it fall off just a little while ago, but since this part is not that heavy compared to the barrels, it doesn't really fall off on its own. So that is just one thing that you probably should be concerned about. So this guy is still currently in stock on our site at this time, but being it is a Kotobukiya kit, kind of once they run out of stock, then that's it. Then they kind of go discontinued, and you won't be able to buy it again until they have a possible future reissue, which they do have from time to time. So if you are looking to get Iron Kong Yeti, definitely get your order in as soon as possible. But if you're watching this video at some point in the future and he is no longer available on the site, then don't lose hope, because probably more than likely at some point or another he will come back for a reissue, I would have to imagine. All right, so that's going to end it then for this video. Thank you all out there very much for watching. We hope you are all doing well and having a good time as well as you can. Actually, I just found there's a piece on the floor. Oh, I think it's from the back of the Gatling gun. Yeah, all right. Thank you very much for watching. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button below if you are not subscribed yet, and hit a like button if you would like to see more of this type of stuff. Thanks again, and we'll see you later.